and welcome to the Book Refuge. This is Jen. Thanks for coming to see me today. First off, yes, I know you can see the little light in my eyes, but I couldn't wait any longer to talk about this book because I am going into the weekend and I'm going to be pretty busy and I don't know when I'll get to talk about it, and I don't want to forget anything because this book was super good. So the book I'm talking about, which you can obviously tell from the title, An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This book was super good. It was so nice to read after finishing Bound to You, which, you know, if you haven't seen my rant and review for that, the card will be up here. That was a crazy time, that one was. But, you know, as readers, we get some of those 2 stars sometimes. Sometimes we even read a 1 star. But I'm happy to tell you, and I won't keep you waiting, this was a 5-star book for me. And, you know, I will admit it might be a 5-star just because the last one was so not a 5-star, that I maybe gave it a little more than it needed, but I don't think so. This was a really great read. It's definitely more in the realm of what I like to read. You know, it's in that fantasy. It's in that, especially fairies. I do love fairies. But anyway, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. Let's go through this the way it's supposed to be. I'll have a tiny spoiler section at the end. Of course, I'll let you know when that happens. But because I really want you guys to read this one, so I don't want to tell you too much about it. So here we go. So the way this book is set up is the main girl in it, her name is Isabel, and Isabel is an artist. And in this realm, being an artist means you have what is called the craft. In this world, a craft is anything that humans make that isn't naturally there already. So that's clothes, that's food, that's any kind of artwork, any kind of furniture, anything that humans make is craft. And the fairies, the fair folk, sorry, I'm going to keep calling them fairies, but they're the fair folk. The fair folk, they cannot make anything. They have all these different powers. They're able to do these different things, but they cannot make anything. So in this town that Isabel lives in is very close to where the human world meets the fair folk kingdom. And so a lot of people in this town do a lot of trading with the fair folk. And the way that they trade is instead of the fair folk giving them money, the fair folk give them enchantments that can do anything. They can be enchantments that make you beautiful, enchantments that help you live a long life, enchantments that warn you of danger. These are all things that you could get from them. However, most people in this village don't use that wisely, of course. They use it to get riches. They use it to get people to love them. And those enchantments usually end in tragedy. However, Isabel, who is an artist, she's a painter. She does portraits for the fair folk, and she's very good. She has made pretty well for her and her family. Her family consists of her aunt and 2 adopted girls, and 2 adopted sisters that she has. And she will ask for very smart things. Like she will ask for, one of the things is she asks that her chickens will lay 6 healthy eggs every week for the rest of the time that they're alive. And she'll word everything really carefully so that the fair folk can't pull one over on her, because that's what they like to do. Like, even though they like her and they like her craft, they would still try to mess with her because that's what they do. So one day Isabel is painting her most loyal client, whose name is Gadfly. He tells her that the Prince of the Autumn Court will be coming to get his portrait painted by her. That next day, the prince does come, and his name is Rook, and she starts painting him. And she paints him every day for, well, not every day, but like once or twice a week for about like a month or so. I think it's around about a month. There's an instant connection between the 2 of them. And it's super cool. And you can already tell that this, you know, this isn't a spoiler. I'm not the spoiler part. You can tell that there's some chemistry building between them, and Isabel is really afraid of that. Because in this world, there's this thing called the good law, which is anything but good, as I'm sure you can guess. And the good law means that a fair folk and a human cannot be in love with each other. And if they both profess that they're in love with each other, only one of 2 things can happen. Either one of them has to die, or the human has to drink from it's called the green well, which will make you a fair folk. So those are the only two options. But as a human, you would have to make it there before anyone killed you. Because once the fair folk as a whole find out that one of them is in love with a human, they're going to try to kill the human as fast as they can. So anyway, the stakes are set high, which is what you want in a good fantasy novel, right? You want the stakes set up high. So it's very easy to see that there's chemistry building between the two of them. So Isabel wants to finish the painting as soon as she can and have him be on his way so that she can stop feeling feelings and stop seeing him feel feelings back. So they're on their last day together and she's finishing the painting. And this whole time she's been feeling that she was missing something about his eyes because his eyes are this peculiar color and she can't quite paint them right. Well, they're talking about, they end up talking about his long life and how he can't even express how old he is because he asks her how many human years she is and she's like, well, I'm 17. And he's like, it's hard for me. I can't even explain to you how old that I am. And so in that moment, she sees this deep and unending pain and sorrow in his eyes that he's not able to, even like count the days. And so she paints that look into his eyes. And in doing so, he has to leave that day. He didn't see the finished painting. He said, I'm going to send someone to come and get it. Thank you for your work. And then he has to pay her. And again, they pay in enchantments. And so she had offered something to warn her if she was going to be in danger. And so he said, how about an enchantment of ravens? Dun, dun, dun. I love when the title is worked in, don't you? It's so cute. So she's like, why ravens? Well, he actually turns into a raven. So she realizes that he wants it to be ravens so that she'll always think of him even after he's gone. And he says, 1 raven for possible danger, 6 ravens if harm is imminent, and 12 ravens if death is near. So that's what the enchantment of raven stands for. So he goes home, he sends someone to pick up the painting after it's finished curing, and it gets brought to him. Well, when it gets brought back, it gets unveiled in front of the entire court, the entire autumn court. They unveil his gift, and they can see the human sorrow in his face. And it puts him in danger because it makes him look weak. And so in the middle of the night, he comes back to her house and tells her she has to face trial for what she did because he can't be seen as weak and she's the one who made him look weak, and they'll think that, she was doing this on purpose to hurt him. So he brings her back because he wants to put her on trial for what she did. So then the story continues from there. They go on a journey to get back, and many things happen along the way, which I won't go into. So that was my non-spoilery part. That's the setup for this novel. Again, I'm just going to quickly list a few things that I liked, but this is your last chance to get out without any spoilers. I hope you will check out this book, An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. It was excellent. All right. So I just want to, in the spoilery section, I just want to tell you a few things that I liked that are a little bit spoilery. So the first one for me is the look behind the curtain of the fair folk. So at a point in this novel, Isabel ends up in the spring court, and you learn that the fair folk are always using a glamour. Everything is not as it seems. And as a human, when she comes in contact with the things that are not glamored, she can see them for what they really are. So for instance, one of the creepiest scenes in the book for me was they were sitting down to dinner and they're passing the food around, and Rook is sitting by her and he keeps pushing some of the food away, and she's like, why won't he let me eat this? Why won't he let me eat this? Well, then one of the other fair folk gives her these grapes, and as they fall into her hand, they turn to mush, and here all the food, almost all the food, because some of it is still fresh, is all this like moldy and disgusting food that like they just glamour it and they eat it because they don't really need to eat anything, so they're just doing it for show. So they're not like you know, no one's trying to poison her or anything. This is just what they do. They put on a show because they want to feel human because they can't be human. So there's just this like weird emotions mixed up of like they disdain humanity because they can't last forever, but yet they crave to be human. And it's really kind of beautiful. Second thing that I really like is I really like the relationship between Rook and Isabel. I think it builds really nicely. Like, it's not an insta-love situation. Like, it takes its time. Like, there's the attraction, there's the spark, there's where you can see that there's something there. But it takes its time, and I really enjoyed that. It's so good. And I don't want to like explain everything. Maybe I'll make a video about how I annotate the books. But for me, like, blue are things that I love. So you can see how all the blue, and red is things that I hate. And there's only one little red thing that I didn't like. And it was just because I didn't like what happened, not that I didn't like that it was in the story in general. But yeah, their story is really cool. I really liked it. And then the third thing that I liked is I liked who the villain was. And that I won't share because I was so surprised. Like, because there's a double twist in this book. The first twist, when it happened, I was like, oh, I see where that came from. How didn't I see that? That was awful. Then I'm stupid, and then I was like angry at myself that I didn't see. But that's okay. That's what reading is for. I love being surprised. But then when the second part of the twist happened, there's so many good lines that I would want to read to you. It's fantastic, but I'd end up reading the entire thing. But there's just like, it was a good double twist. Like, Margaret, I salute you, because I'm a book reader. I read a lot of books, and I didn't see that coming. Like, the first twist was the twist you would have maybe saw coming, but the second part of the twist, I was like, what? I have no idea what's happening right now. But anyway, yeah, it was an amazing read. I read it all in one day. I started at lunchtime at work, and then when I got home, I finished the rest of it. It was crazy. You'll see that on my Goodreads if you check it out. So I'll post a little more details about the things I liked on my Goodread. But again, I'm trying to keep my book reviews a little bit shorter because people got lives to get to, you know. But I also love when people talk about books a little more in depth of it. Yeah, so An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I've said this like 7 times now. I'm sorry. But yeah, thanks for coming to visit me at the Book Refuge, and I hope to see you next time.